behavior, right? If you want to influence people, they are going to have to believe on what you are trying to send as a message, right? So how can you send a good message if you don't model the behavior?
That was Q. I'm Dave. We're talking about Agile leadership. So join us as we talk about the why, the challenges on being a leader of an Agile organization. So I'm here today with Q. We're going to talk about Agile leadership. So Q, why Agile leadership?
Well, that's a question, right? That's a question I ask to people who are either new to the Agile workspace or they are not so new, but they still don't understand what we're doing there. So why do you want to be Agile? And normally I hear a lot of buzzwords, like blah, blah, and you know the buzzwords, right? They're very, let's not waste time with that. But the thing is, besides the buzzwords, I don't see anything else other than the buzzwords, right? The behaviors, the mindset, and all those things are missing. The buzzwords are not.
Right. Well, the Agile Manifesto, where Agile basically pretty much started back in 2001, it talks about uncovering better ways of working and talking more about the interactions within a team. So it's kind of like implied that leadership has to support the values and the principles of the Agile Manifesto, right?
Yeah, it is. But you see, the majority of the times, you only see people paying lip service and not actually modeling the behavior, right? If you want to influence people, they are going to have to believe on what you are trying to send as a message, right? So how can you send a good message if you don't model the behavior? For instance, we're saying, okay, one of the behaviors is we have to have a growth mindset, right? Growth mindset means I have to be continuously learning. So I asked the question, how many people in leadership positions actually go to their teams and say, hey guys, I just signed up for this new podcast, for instance, the Scrum Sessions podcast, plug here, right?
United Agility channel on
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. Or I sign up to a new training class, or I'm going to this conference, I'm watching this webinar, right? I don't see that, right? So
Yeah.
you are saying, well, people have to be continuous learning, but they don't see that. The people that they look up to in positions of leadership are not doing that. And then there is another issue, which is the issue of prioritization, right? Gardner keeps saying that biggest mega issue, the 4 mega issues, the biggest one is prioritization. And everything is priority one, or we need everything. No, everything has to be done. So those behaviors are not being modeled. And that's the big problem.
So then what about in Agile teams, and I'm gonna quote Marty Kagan here because he has this book Empowered, and I'm about to read it. I've been watching his videos, so shout out Marty if you're watching this. Thank you very much. Right, we want empowered product teams, and we want the folks to solve problems, not necessarily take leaders' ideas. And here's a feature list of what we want. You put it out there and you're not getting the results you want. Well, whose fault is that? Right?
Well, there is one little problem in there, okay? The problem is people don't like change.
Right.
Only about 3% of the population craves change. I'm one of those, right? I have 2 cell phones in here. I bought a Galaxy S22, and then I had to go get an S23 because I like change, right? But the problem is, in order to have teams that are product teams, in order to have teams that actually have the independence to go after things, you have to like change. And they have to like change because
yes.
I often hear from Scrum Masters saying, Q, there's people on my team, they just want to be told what to do. Right? So there's a lot more as far as change goes. 13% of the population are very skeptic about anything. And then you have about 68% that are actually pragmatists, or they're very slow to adopt stuff, right? So it's difficult to deal with change. That's where modeling the behavior is even more important, right? Because you are trying to convince people to do something, or you're trying to convince yourself to do something, and you're actually not modeling it. And it comes to the point that without leadership support, you're going to go nowhere. Now we talk about self-organizing, self-managing, self-everything, right? Well, that's really hard. And that's why a lot of people want to be told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's extremely hard. And that's not going to happen unless you create the space for people to try things. You have to create some guardrails. You cannot be just, hey, you guys do whatever you want
Right.
because we know it's not going to go well. And you have to keep people accountable, right? But in order to do those things, you have to believe in them and you have to actually model them. And that's one of the things that I don't see. And especially in the IT workspace, which unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know what would be the case, is where you and I mostly operate, right? I do a few things outside of IT, but let's be serious. Very few IT organizations actually like change. They're very conservative. There is always a reason why we cannot do that, and the reason actually doesn't stand up on its own, but I mean, that's what they think. So you have to first have a mindset change. You have to first understand what needs to be done. You have to understand how important is your role as a leader to make things actually happen. But it's not a flip switch. I wish I could
Right.
go there and say, bing, we're agile,
It's going to
right?
take time, and it could be months, maybe a year or two, right? And
Yeah.
so this is where, like, in the industry, we're starting to see this shift more from a project mindset to a product mindset, right? Last time we talked about product managers and product owners, right? So projects have defined lifespans. Now we're thinking about products, even in IT, right? And defining outcomes, not just output. Like,
Exactly.
why are we doing this? Because we want to drive revenue or we want to help customers or whatever. So again, that kind of goes back to, the quote earlier, like if we get engineers to think about solving problems rather than just cranking out good work,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That's how, as a leadership, we're getting that alignment. And yeah, change is going to be choppy, no doubt. But that means we're going to have to change some things that maybe we've been doing for years. So we're going to have
Yeah.
to let some of that stuff go, right?
Yeah. And one of the things we have to change, and it's not easy for a lot of people, especially in your leadership situations, is you have to let it go. You have to let it go, the pretense of controlling everything. You
Command
have
and
to let
control.
it
Yeah.
go. Yeah, I mean, and it's very hard for a lot of people. And I said pretense of control
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people think, well, I told somebody to do this thing, they're going to do it. Well, good luck with that, right? People do
Well,
whatever
you'll
they
get
want to do.
it, but whether it's the outcome that you want, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's another issue.
yeah. They may actually do what you told them to do, but it's not going to work very well. So there is a lot to be done in there, but it all comes down to mindset.
Yep.
And I would say another thing that it's part of that mindset that a lot of people have trouble with that, and it's not my words, it's Gartner words, is learn how to prioritize. Everything
Prioritize.
is not priority one, and
There's
everything
only
has
one
not.
number one, and then
Yeah,
there's a
only
number two.
there's one, and one, right?
There's
And
one and only
until we
one.
do that, and I would end this conversation saying, remember General Patton's words. Tell people what to do, and they're gonna
Mm,
surprise you with their creativity.
nice.
And have some guardrails around it because people may get too creative, right?
Right.
But
Right.
that's what I would end this conversation with.
Awesome. So another great chat. Thanks a lot. Hey, folks, please hit like or subscribe. Help us get these videos out to more folks. You also get notified if you subscribe for a new video. You're going to see on the screen here how you can get in touch with us. We've written books. Q co-hosts Scrum sessions every first Thursday of the month, right, Q?
That's correct.
So hit that and join. It's a great session. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank